going to be a bumpy night.
What's going on, people? This is another episode of the Laugh Bunker podcast. My name is Josh. Paul, great to see you again. This is episode.
Good to be seen, definitely. Thank
Yeah.
you. Especially after last night. I mean,
Yeah, I
that's
know.
just the big thing.
Yeah.
Earthquake, for anyone who felt it. We were both massively close to this one.
Yeah.
So, did your son wake up?
No, he didn't. No, I think my wife woke up real quick, but she wasn't too startled. I think I woke her up real quick, and then she quickly went to bed. I just went to check on them. It was a pretty aggressive earthquake, man. It happened around what, midnight last night?
11:47.
Okay, yeah.
And I mean,
the fault line, like where it happened, the epicenter was like right between you and me.
And it's where the big Whittier one happened. I don't remember the year, but they said that was 5.0. At first, this registered at 4.8. Then they dropped it down to 4.5.
Yeah.
But you know what? The difference between like every segment, it's not just 10%. It's 100 times. So when you go from 3 to 3.1, that's 10 times as strong. But from 3 to 4 is 100 times more powerful.
Okay.
In the side. You know, it's funny. Here's what's even crazier.
Yeah.
When our hotels went down on Thursday night all night,
yeah,
the technician who came out from Anaheim said what triggered ours is that a guest hit the elevator so hard, it set off the seismic control that makes the elevators lock in place and doors open for safety.
You're talking about at your place of work on the hotels, they went out, or the elevator
that
went
was
out.
that was on Thursday.
Yeah, but how did
wait.
the guest hit the elevator so hard that it?
Bell cart.
Oh, okay.
Some fine guests in our establishment. Some of the citizens, some of the best people in America are staying in my hotel right now.
Yeah.
And but also here's the deal. They are fixing they're doing a gentrification of the lobby elevators. There's only 3 on the side and they're all down. So they're forcing everybody to move to the service elevator.
Yeah.
Service elevators are not used to this sort of traffic.
Yeah.
A whole hotel.
Yeah.
So what's happening is that we were hearing noises. So a couple of days
mechanically, it's just wearing out.
Oh yeah, just not used to it. So it went down Thursday night. Question is, if it went down with that, I'm when I go to work tonight, I'm interested to know if that happened again.
Yeah. Are you going to work tonight?
Yeah.
Oh.
I have to work tonight.
Oh, I thought you had the weekend off.
No, I usually do, but that's what made it even worse. I worked 3 days in a row, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, was on a massive schedule. Thursday, the elevators went down. I carried people's luggage up. But since the trails are closed and I haven't been able to suffer in the mountains, I really got into it. But people were like not happy.
No, I wouldn't think so.
People were throwing their food and stuff on the stairways. It was just out of control. But of the people whose luggage I took, I mean, I got the best tips I've ever gotten in one night.
And rightfully so.
I carried up luggage for 13 guests.
Yeah, up. You guys are using 6 floors out of what, 20, right?
Yeah, but 12. But
12. Okay.
Guests are on the top half of the hotel. And to get to the staircase, you have to go up. There's no direct. You have to go up to the ballrooms. You know where the ballrooms are, right?
Yeah.
So the fountain, well, you got to go all the way to the other side, down the hallway, and then get to the stairs that goes to the 12th floor. So even that journey is, you're getting 2 flights of stairs there.
So one went out. Are the others not working? Is there the elevator company? Can they shut that one down and activate the other 2?
No, it's they're in total disarray. I mean, they're being assembled. So the 3 main elevators, and then they have service elevators that only go to certain floors, but that doesn't make sense because of guests. Anyway, long story short, had a hell of a good workout. Got a great tips.
Yeah.
But it made Friday hard because I was off, and now to work today, I was in this weird. So when that earthquake woke me up, it like now I'm up for 2 hours. Maybe I was watching Narcos, the truth is, and so That's what I went. My go-to.
Time could, you could get lost in the show for a bit. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and I couldn't sleep because I'm on this weird schedule. So then I'm up, I'm watching Narcos. I said, well, I obviously should be going to 7-Eleven and getting a nasty beer and a microwave burrito to go with the Narcos so I could fit right in. And so I'm now paying for that.
You got fitting beer. You got a King Cobra, right?
First time with this beer that was, it's just gotta be one of the better things I've ever had.
Uh-huh.
You know what's interesting? Do you notice that when you go to different 7-Elevens, where they are, look at their beer selection?
Yeah. I never really paid attention to it, but yeah.
Well, no, but it's so at this one where I'm here in San Gabriel, Alhambra is where I went up to. A lot of more Mexican beers, a lot of it more. Now, if I go to 7-Eleven,
you have a big Asian population. Is there any more Asian beers, like maybe Kirin, a Sapporo?
Yeah, just a couple though.
Okay.
And because mainly this is pressed into the Asian or the Chinese are more around there, but it is, and it's all the same. In fact, when I talked to 7-Eleven guy, he said when the earthquake hit the store, everybody in the store just dropped what they had and took off for the parking lot. He said, he said they literally dropped everything and took off. And so anyway, it was what it was.
Now, when you first moved out here, I don't know, did you ever experience earthquakes like this, or even bigger?
Yes, one, and it was that one. It was either I think it was in Chino, and when we first moved out here, I was a carpenter.
What year was this?
This would be 2007 or 8.
Okay.
I believe it was the summer of 2008 for some reason, or 2009, but it wasn't 2007 because I came out here in September, and I really didn't start working for this company till January. So yeah, I came home from work.
Yeah.
And I was close because I worked in San Marino, so it's 5 minutes to my house. I drove home, and my wife or my daughter had a friend from Chicago who we knew. My wife was home because it was summertime, and I was upstairs, literally sitting on the toilet. Seriously. So I'm sitting there, and it starts going, and I didn't know what to do because I could hear my wife being from California, familiar with earthquakes. She yells, "Earthquake!" Well, I don't know. I'm thinking the movie with Charlton Heston. I'm thinking big time. You know what I mean? And because we live in a townhouse, we have 2 stories.
Yeah.
But our 2 stories sit on top of another building, and so because of this roll, it's built to move.
Oh yeah.
And it was not just the move. I was like, do I stop? Do I get up? Do I run? But what was weird was the noise. And I guess that's what I had never thought about. But it actually sounded like massive trucks were rolling down the road. And it was the rumbling that I guess I never, and then obviously the stretching of the building materials, the 2x4s, drywall, whatever, roofing. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, it was pretty weird.
Yeah.
But then wasn't there one last year too, like 2 years ago?
There's always like
for a long time because there was water on my desk, and I remember just going from the bed.
They happen all the time. Like if you look at the seismic, they happen like almost multiple times a day. But the ones that you feel and you are memorable for you, like maybe once or twice a year almost. But they're tiny, the smaller ones. But the ones like this, once every, I don't know, once a year, you probably get one.
So what was the biggest one that you were in? Was it?
Well, I've been out here in my whole life, so the biggest
big one in 89, 99?
No, the big one was like 94,
Northridge?
94 in Northridge. That was
Now, did you feel that one?
Yeah. I don't remember the earthquake that much. I remember it going on for a few seconds. It lasted a long time. And then I remember everybody getting up. It was probably early in the morning, maybe 4 or 5 in the morning. And then I remember everybody going to the TV and turning on the channel, the news, and then just seeing some of the newscasters, some of them that got pulled in like like got the call to come in. You could tell they just woke up. They rolled out of bed. It was a massive earthquake, and I remember
How
that
big
one.
was that?
I want to say 7 or 8. But it was probably the biggest one. We haven't had any. Was it 6.8?
No, I'm just making a guess.
Oh.
I'm gambling. I don't know.
It was
I always go lighter than what people say for some reason.
let me see,
You said
94.
7, right?
It was 6.7 actually. Yeah,
Oh,
6.7. Yeah. But it was like
like that.
it lasted quite a while and caused a lot of damage. It like
Oh yeah,
I mean
definitely.
it broke down like freeways.
It
Freeways
changed
collapsed.
building codes
Yeah,
big
change
time,
build. Mm-hmm.
especially being in. I mean, and that's one thing that was interesting. So, being a carpenter in Chicago,
Yeah.
I mean, things are built sturdy, but we don't use tons of metal. Now,
Mm.
maybe they do now, but in the old days, it wasn't like. And then out here, like when I was working, I mean, just the amount of metal used just
Yeah.
in a closet,
Yeah.
for your headers and supports and your rafters. It's just so much different. But I
Yeah.
understand because um, that last night was just, I mean, if you're talking exponentially 10 or 100%, so when you're talking about 6 that was 200 times more powerful. Now can you imagine if you were in your house and I was in my house
Yeah.
and it was 200 times stronger?
Yeah.
I mean, there wouldn't be stuff on the walls.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, I mean that was so.
But we haven't had anything that big or in this area for quite a while since then. Everything's been like in the 4 to 5 range, and not as damaging, not as it's just no. So that was huge. That was probably the biggest one in my lifetime.
Well, I remember watching the World Series game with the one in San Francisco, and
Yeah.
that earthquake happened live, and that was pretty interesting. But when you go
Yeah.
back to some of the pictures, like Mexico City,
Oh
um,
yeah, yeah.
Alaska, I mean, Alaska in '62, where the road, I mean that was just
Yeah.
it's. Do you think? I mean, you would imagine, my friend was mentioning this, but you have so many people on the earth, and you have the way the climates and this and that. You wonder if that has to do something with the mantle of the earth and causing earthquakes,
Like
or do you think
the heating of the earth.
the heating, that all the think about the weight of people, and I know it's obviously gravity, and I don't know anything about physics at all,
Yeah,
but it just obviously
the
if this
science out of
climate change is affecting everything, and the Earth is really an alive
I wouldn't
being,
yeah,
so
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt it has some effect.
do you think there'll be a massive earthquake in your lifetime here in LA?
I wouldn't be surprised. 6.7 over here in LA area, that's pretty big. What I wouldn't be surprised if there was an 8 at some
One
point in
day?
my life. Yeah, one day. Yeah, yeah. And the thing about that Northridge one, because you remember when like the one last night, it went on for a couple of seconds.
Well, they
North,
said 20 seconds.
yeah, like I made it. I got up. I kind of realized what was happening, and then made it halfway to my bedroom when when it stopped. So in the Northridge one, I don't know how long that one lasted. That one felt like it lasted forever.
Well, I guess I don't know like anything about earthquakes, but there's a couple
Yeah,
different times. There's a shaking kind, and then there's the rolling kind. Now,
yeah,
last night it seemed like I was doing this in the bed, like we were shaking, and
yeah,
because I was flat, it disoriented me a little bit.
yeah, yeah.
But it was really strange, and it's bizarre. My wife, I think, is more freaked out with me than me. Have you ever been in a tornado or
No,
near
no,
tornado?
no.
Well, we had a couple in one time when I was in Springfield, Missouri. I went to this. We all went to movies. That's what we did. I mean,
Yeah,
that's all you did to go out, And so I was in college. Well, I did other things too, but at this time I was at the Christian college, so we went to movies, and we went to this movie. It was with Jason Robards, and I can't remember the movie. And we came out, and the sirens were just going off, and my
yeah.
girlfriend said,
Those doomsday sirens, huh?
yeah, she said
Yeah,
tornado because she was, from Kansas City,
yeah,
Oklahoma area. So that's Tornado Alley. And I just couldn't remember. And so we ended up, instead of driving back to school, which was on we were at Battlefield Mall, so it was Glendale Avenue. We went to this hotel right away, right there where this building was, and everybody was in the stinking hallways with their heads down.
Was the movie theater not strong enough to?
We didn't know when we came out. Is when we were on our way to walking toward our car when the sirens went off.
Yeah,
and the sky was just, and it's really weird. Before the sirens, there was no noise. There was nothing. It was like this weird still. And we were talking about the movies. The sirens went off. We looked around. Everything looked funky in the sky. People were running. We went to this hotel. Everyone was hunkered down. About 20 or 30 minutes later, we drove back to school. And on the road we drove on, there was a big Civil War battlefield there, and they have a big famous cemetery there.
Yeah,
we were at Battlefield Mall, which is right by there. But these big rocks were just blown, and trees were just everywhere. So, and growing up, a couple times growing up in Detroit, we would go down to the basement because of, but not
what,
like
what,
here.
What did you have in Detroit or Chicago that you had to worry about? Natural type of
tornadoes,
disaster stuff. Tornadoes in Detroit.
Yeah. I mean, as a kid, we went down to the basement a couple times.
Yeah.
Because they were close. But the truth is, in a major city, you're not going to have as major problems with that. But my aunts lived out on farms in Michigan, and they would have tornadoes come through there. And then, Tornado Alley going up through the middle. So I guess wherever you live, you pay.
Yeah.
So you're going to pay for something. In the Midwest, you got the tornadoes, the bad cold, the snow. You get sun here, but you got to drive, and there's hurricanes. And though I don't ever remember hearing a hurricane come up to LA. Have you?
No.
In your lifetime, did they? Because
we don't have to deal with them out here. No, it's more of like.
What would they be called? Typhoons, because they're from the Pacific. Aren't they divided in?
I have no idea. I didn't know we don't get hurricanes, and even typhoons. I mean, we don't really have to deal with that either. I don't think. Earthquakes and wildfires and what else? That's about it.
Well, the fires, dude. Hey, as we talked last week, the fires are just still. They're just roaring. The smoke has gotten better for us where we live, and also for you. But for a week, I couldn't leave the house.
Yeah.
I mean, it was horrible. And that one on Mount Wilson, I was driving home yesterday, and I went a little on the 210 toward it, and you can see the scorched areas on the sides of the hills, and it keeps growing. That's over 65,000 acres. And so our trip with Moses has been, I just got an email from the Inyo National Forest to set our permit. Well, believe it, the bummer is it's to the day before.
Oh, okay.
So we're like, are we going to am I going to do all this prep if we're going to go? I said, why don't we might just head out to the desert, to Joshua Tree.
Yeah.
Have you ever?
No.
And you've never been to Coachella?
No.
Okay.
No. It's too expensive, and then like there's most of the bands I'm not really going to care to see. I'd say 90% of them. So I'm not really going to pay that much. There's sometimes though
going on over there.
I don't know.
Quite a while now. Huh?
Quite a while, yeah. Every now and then they'll have a couple of good acts. Maybe some rock acts. Maybe like Nine Inch Nails will headline a tour, or like a night, or Rage Against the Machine, something like that. That'd be kind of like, oh man, it can be kind of cool. But for the most part, I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't have minded to experience it, but no, it's too much. No.
Well, it's yeah.
Do you like those kind of festivals?
Well, I did that. I mean, I worked that for 9 years. Yeah. I mean, for 7 years. Wait. Yeah, I mean, I worked for a company that did outdoor rock festivals.
Those multiple day ones?
Yeah, 4 or 5 camping, up to 25, 30,000 people.
Okay.
And it was Christian, and it was called Cornerstone. And there was, it's very interesting because back then, it was before the big record companies bought up all the Christian artists.
Yeah.
It was there was an artist called Amy Grant, a lady, I'm sure you heard of her, but she's pretty much the first one that made the jump. And when she started milling of albums, then Columbia and other ones started moving in.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of big bands come through, POD and I mean, tons of bands. I can't even tell you how many.
And a lot of those type of musical acts were able to go from like the Christian rock scene or Christian music scene, and based on their, I guess, their lyrical content or their style of their music, were able to kind of blend in a little bit easier than most into the mainstream.
There were some big time Christian artists who were pretty upfront, and one of them was U2 with Bono and The Edge. And Larry Mullins, which was the drummer. The only one that wasn't a person of faith was the bass player, and I can't think of his name offhand, and I apologize to him. U2 is one of my favorite bands.
Yeah.
Saw them back in.
But like for even though like POD, I was a big fan of theirs, and I still am. But I just remember, I know they're subliminally their lyrical content kind of, you can interpret it as being very, more of a religious context, but it wasn't all in your face. So I think them having that really good music.
Oh, that album! But that one album,
especially
every song is stinking.
Yeah.
Well, they had the warm up album. But the first album had 2 or 3 hits. Southland,
Southtown, all that.
Southtown, and then the second one was on every single commercial on TV. Every car commercial, I mean, which they were used. But you know what? In person, having known them and worked with them and signed them and have them come to our festival, just killer.
Yeah.
Well, and when you're in a more,
they're still one of my favorites
settings. They did that. Sonny, the lead singer, he was kind of an evangelist kind of guy, but they were great guys. So yes, I did that work for many years. It's a young man's game, outdoor music festivals, and my job really during most of the year was making spreadsheets and ordering toilets and enterprise rent-a-cars, and that was it. And then during the event, I just kind of go-to guy, just fix stuff, walk, we worked hours. And then we did, a lot of the people with our group traveled, and they did all kinds of the classic rock festivals, the gospel festivals, the country, which they said the country music people, my friends who worked at those festivals said, of all of them, more than the Christian or anybody else, was the country music people were just nice people. I mean, just like down, like everybody's family kind of weird, like, hi, how are you? Yeah, just really nice. And they said that was really refreshing. And you know who Waylon Jennings is, the older, well, his son, Shooter Jennings.
Yeah.
A couple friends of mine really hung out a lot with him. And it was some festival in Oklahoma, I don't remember the name of it, but said he was just killer, just cool people. And like we always talk about, we love hearing good things. But I mean, that makes sense, because when you think of country music, you kind of think of just, I don't know, mellow people, farmers, whatever. Different. Do you listen to country music at all?
Country music? No. I mean, there's some people that crossed over, for like Aaron Lewis from like the rock world. He, his band was Stained. He went and did his old country thing.
And the guy from Hootie and the Blowfish too.
Yeah. So both of them
were huge.
I
love that band, by the way, Hootie and the Blowfish. I really enjoyed that first album of theirs. On a side note.
No. He's great, and I enjoyed their stuff too. And then he crossed over. So that was pretty much it. I mean, on a regular basis, that was pretty much it. I actually went to go see Aaron Lewis over in, I think it was Thousand Oaks. There was this like kind of stagecoachy kind of ranch restaurant theater, like small little concert venue. It's up in the hills. I went to go see him when I think he just had his debut album, I think, out there.
How big of a venue? How many people?
A few hundred. It was like a small like.
I saw a lot of venues in Chicago like that too.
Yeah.
I like that small venue.
I like it too, and that's why I think I never really did much of the 3-day festival thing, because I like to kind of get in and get out. You know what I mean? Like whether it's a big venue or a small venue. I prefer the smaller venues.
Well, I would
But
say in 7 years of doing the festivals, I probably
yeah,
didn't watch too many concerts. I
yeah,
mean, there was a couple that I did watch that were
yeah,
phenomenal, but I was always working, so I get it. And yeah, I mean, people would camp out at
yeah,
the one festival I worked, this Cornerstone, and it was all porta potty and these weird showers,
yeah.
and it,
That's not
you
me,
know,
man. I don't know.
Cornerstone when it started was
No.
the only Christian festival. The biggest one was Creation out in Pennsylvania, but it was the only Christian festival that was playing rock music
Mm,
because it was started by and managed by a guy who came from the Christian rock area back in the 70s.
yeah,
You know, with that whole movement, the hippie, the boss, the whole thing. That's pretty
yeah,
much, and my church comes out of that, or my old church in Chicago came out of the hippie movement. So it was
yeah,
always music based.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, but I lived in a beautiful trailer. Okay, during the event, okay, I had
Uh,
because the church had bought the grounds. There were all these trailers that were on the lake, so I stayed
yeah,
on the lake. I mean, we worked massive hours, and it was fun. But it's just, but what's weird, the people who we rented the sound and staging from, these guys were machines.
yeah,
I mean, they're there, they put it up, bam, 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 show, da, 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 goodbye. And they're
yeah,
off in the next town, and just that's not the life for me. I have
yeah.
a friend who does that. He travels with different bands. And so he traveled, he did Area Grande here, and then when she was
Uh-huh.
in Europe the last time, it was supposed to be on two big tours this year, which obviously
Well,
they've
he
been
got
gone
canceled.
and
Yeah,
canceled. He did do Kid Rock, who he said was a very nice person. He said Area
yeah,
Grande ate with the crew and was very nice and cool too. That's stinking awesome.
yeah,
And but he did that for a while. But that's a young man's game.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, you just don't sleep, and it's so repetition. There
And
is
I'm sure it's hard on like if you have a family too. It's like
well,
not the
yeah,
type.
but
Yeah,
what he was getting paid was pretty spectacular. I
yeah.
will tell you. And I don't know. Obviously, there's different levels,
Levels
but I
to it.
know his
Yeah,
pay was pretty killer.
that's cool.
And but he did it. I mean, I did this with him at Cornerstone.
Yeah.
His
Oh,
dad ran
okay.
Cornerstone, so he's been on doing this since '84.
Okay.
So I mean, that's what he does.
So,
And his son is the one who did. He recorded his son to do the opening for our thing.
okay. That's yeah. That's
So
right.
that's how small the
Yeah,
world
yeah,
is.
yeah.
And his son, he's gonna be. I mean, his son practices music 8 hours a day.
Talented guy.
I
Huh?
mean, oh, and he's done Fleet Foxes, I believe, is a name of a band. He writes and helps them. So I mean, there's
Uh,
some. He's a really. Truth is, JD's son, who did the guitar,
yeah,
probably one of the most remarkable young men I have met
yeah,
in my life.
yeah.
I mean, just the nicest, the coolest, and just incredibly talented. So,
Yeah.
parents did a good job with that young man.
Good.
So, so that's what I gotta say. So anyway, that's the connection
Yeah.
in a
So,
way. So, but
uh,
anyway, so
so
back to Joshua Tree. That's where we're gonna go.
that's good. That's good. All right. So, to get to other things this week, what have you been watching? What have you been catching? I know you don't have a whole lot of time, but with the lack of hiking, I'm sure you got a little bit of
Yeah.
time then, huh?
Well, the truth is, I've been putting that time into my writing.
Okay.
To be honest with you. So yeah, I mean, I haven't hiked in 10 days or whatever. Well, I mean, I hiked at the hotel on
Yeah.
Thursday night, but
Yeah.
other
Yeah.
than that, no. And I'm really thinking about. I mean, there's a hill I can go hike on in Sierra Madre. It's
Yeah.
incredibly steep. It's at the bottom of the foothill. It's and I sometimes I'll do it for 2 or 3 hours,
Yeah.
and but the neighbors get worried. It's crazy man doing it. I remember the lawn guys. They look at me like, "What are you doing, man? That you're suffering." They could not relate. I mean, we're suffering every day at our job. Why would we do that on our free time?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. So I've been putting more into the writing, but I have been, always Narcos wrapping up number
Hmm.
3. And then my wife said I can't put it on again. I have to have a 6 month break. Um, I did watch this movie with her. My wife is very astute at picking great films, and
Uh-huh.
she is willing to try on Netflix. So we watched this movie, The Devil All the Time.
Yeah.
Came out right now. It's with Tom Holland, Robert Pattinson, Bill Skarsgård, and Henry Melling. Now Henry Melling was Dudley on Harry Potter. So
Okay.
now
Yeah.
he's pretty
It's all grown up, huh?
pretty
Yeah.
intense, pretty good actor.
Yeah.
Of course, being British, that's why they're all good. You know, he's well trained, and but it has the Skarsgård, and I know you're a big fan of the family, as I am, going all the way to the father.
Yeah. Yeah, especially the father. And
what's your favorite movie of the dads?
The dad.
Step.
What's a good movie of his?
He does a lot of avant-garde, and I mean, he's doing the Marvel thing now, but before
yeah, he's doing the Marvel
thing. A lot
now.
of European and Danish films also.
Yeah. Let me look at his IMDb real quick.
Well, you love my favorite movie of his is Good Will Hunting, where he plays the professor.
Oh, that's right. That's right. He's the one that's kind of like he's what's his name? His boss. He's not his boss. Is he his boss, or is he kind of like Robin Williams' character? He kind of like
Robin Williams and him were Robin Williams and him were roommates at MIT.
Yeah, and he comes to ask him to help. Huh?
Yeah, so he wants to try to break through, but Stellan is jealous of, you know. Anyway, it's a long story.
your favorite of his is Good Will Hunting.
Good, but go back to the movie that my wife and I really liked was Breaking the Waves with Emily Watson.
Okay.
And it's a Danish film by Lars von Trier. He did The Nymphomaniac. He's done some very eclectic films.
Yeah.
But he also is the one that started this movement called the Dogma 95, which were these rules that you can only use in certain films.
Yeah.
So I would go with Breaking the Waves and Good Will Hunting for me.
As overall, yeah, I would say Good Will Hunting. For also just looking at his IMDb here, I like his role in The Glass House. He plays the dad. I think he plays the stepfather. No,
you recommend that?
I mean, it came out like 90. No, it came out 2001. It's kind of like a thriller. Girl's family, like her mom and dad die in a car accident. I think she goes to live with, I guess, her stepfather. No, she goes to live with somebody, and it's kind of like the psychological kind of like horror thriller. But he plays like I think her stepdad. Let me see what he actually. No, they're like guardians. I think they're maybe like their godparents or something like that. So they take ownership of her and the brother, and he's like a perverted kind of may have been involved with the parents' death. Like it's kind of like that. He plays a good like villain in that one.
He commands the scene.
Yeah. So I would suggest it. I don't think it's the greatest movie in the world, but it is a memorable one for that time.
Well, the movie that this Devil All the Time, the Netflix film, it's from a famous book by Donald Pollock. Now, I'm sure it was a great book.
Yeah.
And there's some moments in this film that are great, and there's some great acting, but it is a visually violent film. You're dealing with.
Are you talking about the one you saw?
Yes, The Devil All the Time. That's the movie I watched with my wife. She was probably more forgiving. Just didn't seem like there was one person in the movie I wanted to win. It's just tragedy after tragedy. Great acting, looks great. Just it captured the time. I mean, you feel like you're in the 40s and 50s.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I get pulled into films, and there's a big spiritual base of the film.
Okay.
Dealing with Christianity and faith and bad people and good people. It's even more pronounced than The Tax Collector of good and evil. I would recommend it, but it's really interesting because in the digital age, it doesn't always translate, especially when we go nostalgic or go old, because we're used to the old movies having that thick, creamy feel of film. Yeah. But whoever shot it did a phenomenal job. This Tom Holland, I'm telling you what, he reminds me of Shia LaBeouf a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, and I brought that up to my wife, and she said no, that Shia has a little bit more, character.
I think he's a little more gritty.
Gritty. But I really thought the guy did a good job for a young man.
Yeah.
And Robert Pattinson was great, but he played a nasty preacher
Okay.
of ill repute, so to speak. So it just, when people play bad people, I don't know. It was a little cliche, but
Yeah.
yet, I mean, he's a phenomenal actor, not
Yeah.
taken about.
Yeah.
So other than that, I would say it's worth a watch.
Okay.
And I went back to Witness because I have it for free right now, so
Yeah.
I watched that. I that's my background music to when I cook.
Yeah.
And the soundtrack by Maurice Jarre is killer. The
Yeah.
opening sound. So I like. In fact, I even downloaded. I don't download music, but I actually downloaded it because I can write to music without words. But if there's any words, for some reason, I just can't read, write, and listen to words. So I always listen to jazz and other things. And then then it's the opening of the NFL season, which I know means nothing to you, but to us people who don't have anything else. And so, okay, because of the social area and Hollywood and sports, it's gotten very thick with society. It's not as an escape as it used to be.
No, not so
And
much.
when you take the fans out of the game,
Yeah.
you can pump in these sounds, but it doesn't work for me at all. And football is a little different than maybe even basketball for putting in the sounds and pictures, because when you watch basketball, it's close anyway. But football is
I heard
bigger.
they're doing a pretty good job. I heard they did a decent job with the camera angles though, to focus more on the players and not show this big empty arena. Did it? So you're saying they didn't really do that great of a job? You still kind of felt it was a little empty in there?
Okay, so for me as a football fan,
Yeah.
the season starts. Being from Detroit, the season starts when we're eliminated from any chance of the playoffs, which is usually the second or third game of the year. Now, they don't even wait for us to get a losing season. After 2 or 3, they go, same old Lions, you get there. So then it's all about who's getting fired. So you're reading the paper. Then you're building through the preseason. We have the draft. What's going on? Who new guys? What trades? We have the preseason. 4 or 5 games. Most of the play is shitty.
Yeah.
But it's to see who you have and whatever. And then the season starts. And even then, they rest a lot of the stars and whatever. So it's only about the second, third game that it gets in the full tilt.
Okay.
And then you're talking about the greatest. Now, I have to go back and rephrase something. So last week we talked about sports and I used the word loser. Now, my wife got on me and said, we can't use that word anymore. It's not the loser of the 80s, when I thought that was my first name. So because of that, and it was just a different time.
You can't use the word loser anymore?
I don't want to use the word loser when talking about someone who doesn't win a Super Bowl or a championship. And let me rephrase what I'm going to say about sports, because I think.
Well, that's technically the meaning of the term, no?
Yes, it is. But hear it out. Number one, if you play professional sports, you only have a talent from God. People don't have it.
Yeah.
And those that are able to take that talent and take it to the different level, those are your champions. If you don't win a championship as a professional sports, then you have an unfulfilled career. You weren't successful at the end of your career. It doesn't make you lose. Now, if you're on a team that has horrible players, or whatever, or management, or you're on the Lions or whatever, then your career is you weren't successful. If you're a sport player,
are they winning in life?
That's what I'm saying. So
they are.
If you're in life,
genetically and
genetically and financially, and if they're kind to their fans, cool. Now, one thing in the last few years that really turned away from football a little bit is watching the way that football teams who stayed at our hotel walked by 5-year-old kids.
Yeah.
And just ignored them. And I thought, even a wave or whatever, that you wave to that kid, he's going to talk about that till he's 30 years old.
Yeah.
So that bothered me a little bit. But there were certain teams that were more friendly than others, and you suspected from management and you from on down. So if you go to the Super Bowl or the Stanley Cup or the World Series or whatever, and you don't win, then you're a loser of the championship game, and that's just the way it is. But you got there, but second place would be first loser. Mm-hmm. So it would only be a career thing, obviously that off the field means nothing or whatever. So
no, I mean, anyway, even when you mention it though, when you say loser, you're not. It's more of an in the moment type of thing to where they let you down in some type of way, and it's not in life. It's just in the game. You know what I mean?
It's like that. It's like they were in the locker room going, well, you know what? Let's screw Paul today. He's been a fan. And I heard he just went out and bought some jerseys. So we got to mess it up today. So that being said, I turned on the game because I loved the game.
Yeah.
And I knew a guy years ago at a gym, and his name was Dr. Henry Heer. Uh-huh. And he played on the Bills.
Okay.
And, he played on the Redskins. And he went to the Super Bowl. And he said something to me one time. He said, the game is greater than the people. So in that sense, it really changes the perception. Like I said, if you were sitting on the bench, you were the greatest in your high school.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the level. We forget about how incredible these people are.
Yeah,
compared to us. I mean, there's guys
and a lot of them that
just run us down in a second.
Yeah, and there's a lot of talented individuals that just don't end up making it because there's so much the level of competition to get on the team, and like the stars all have to align to just even get on the practice squad. It's crazy.
Exactly. So when you take all this greatness and then you're winning championships.
Yeah.
So the first game I watched was Houston Texans versus Kansas City Chiefs. I love Patrick Mahomes because not only is he phenomenally talented, he just seems like he's having fun.
Yeah.
All the time. And I like that. Now, and the second game I watched was Tom Brady, the new Tampa Bay play, the Saints and Drew Brees. I'm a big Tom Brady fan. Maybe not personally.
Was it weird seeing him in the uniform?
Well, it was their timing, and I thought that when I watched his game that he was playing for the Lions.
Okay.
I mean, penalties, overthrows. It just seemed you could see this is where
working out the kinks.
This is where non-preseason makes a big difference. Think about 5 weeks of practicing 5 times a day.
Yeah.
And sports is all about that millisecond. The difference between a millisecond is Super Bowl and losing. I mean, thinking back, or any sport, boxing, MMA.
Especially when you have a new team that he's on, you got to, it takes a long time to really create a relationship with everybody in a whole format and formula, and to just go thrown right into it, and you have to figure it out in a certain amount of time.
And when you carry, you're not just showing up, you're bringing Tom Brady.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the expectations were different. Drew Brees, I mean, their team looked better.
Because they've been playing
together. Yeah, they played last year together, so there was time. I think, don't be surprised. And Tom Brady, like Michael Jordan that we heard The Last Dance, or everybody, he will use that game, and you watch him play this week. And his stats. And I believe at the end of the year, barring injury, he has more talent now than he's ever had.
Yeah.
And but then Belichick is the great coach.
Yeah.
So anyway, those were the 2 games I watched. My Detroit Lions, of course, have to talk about this. They're up. They're winning the opening game. And the Bears quarterback, Trubinsky, the worst rated quarterback, the worst quarterback in the league, threw 3 touchdown passes in the 4th quarter.
Uh-huh.
Then the Lions have a chance to win the game. 10 seconds left. Their receiver is by himself in the end zone, and he dropped the ball. That is
That
my
is
football life. And that's why I am kind of a football whore. I'm a prostitute. Joe Montana, he was awesome for years. Tom
Yeah.
Brady's been good. I'm just more interested to see if what happens with this or that. It's kind of a, if he does come back and win the championship, it'll cement him as the greatest maybe football player of all time.
Yeah.
And be the worst case scenario. But then I'm ready to move on to Patrick Mahomes. I'm going to jump on him for a while and ride him till he fails me, and then I'll go somewhere else. Because there's no winning in Detroit. Yeah. So those were the main things I watched, and then the final thing I watched was The Firm with Tom Cruise.
Okay.
And since we're talking about some Tom Cruise stuff today, I watched The Firm from the famous Grisham movie. Yeah. Has one of my favorite actors in it, Gene Hackman, and it's directed by Sidney Pollack.
Yeah.
Who's one of my favorite directors.
Yeah. So, it's a fun movie, man. I recommend it for people to watch.
So, what have you been watching?
Let's see. Today, at least I have some fights today. A good card. It's on ESPN. If you got time, oh no, you're gonna go to work.
I'm having my own fights today.
Yeah.
You can tune into my MMA show.
So I'm watching that. Last weekend I had about 3 fights, 3 different cards, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Oh no, 2 on Saturday and 1 on Friday. Aside from that, what else? I saw Saving Private Ryan again.
Nice.
Just a great movie. I mean, that movie is just a roller coaster of emotion. Just you're watching it, it's just so crazy, and I think one of the best war movies, if not one of the best, just movies in general. It's just such a great movie. Great cast.
100%.
Yeah,
love it. Love the final transition to that cemetery in Normandy.
Yeah.
And my wife. Have you ever been there?
No.
My wife went there a few years ago, and walked the beach.
Yeah.
And she said it was a pretty powerful experience. And the opening of that film of D-Day.
Yeah. And I don't think we've ever seen a war movie that has shown that much graphic, kind of like realism. Like that's like a movie that you always hear the veterans. They sometimes couldn't even watch it because it's just too real. Like it's just one of those movies. But it was such a great movie. If you haven't seen it in a while, I suggest people to watch it because it's just a cast: Tom Hanks, Giovanni Ribisi, Vin Diesel, young Vin Diesel, one of his first.
Tom
Sizemore, Barry Peppers. I mean, you just such a great cast. The storyline doesn't waste any time; just goes right to it. They're looking for Saving Private Ryan. They're looking for Ryan, who was played by Matt Damon. And they don't waste a lot of time. They kind of find out where he's going to be, and then you go right to it, and man, it's just nonstop action, man.
The transition of giving the information coming through the path of the other brothers who were killed. The storyline being they have to rescue this one brother because the family's lost 4 or 5 brothers or something like that.
There's 4 of them, and he's the 4th, and he lost 3.
Okay, already. Lost 3, and then. But I love the transition and how it goes through the chain of command, all the way down to it being delivered to the mom.
Yeah. One of Spielberg's best. I mean, you can even put it at his. I think one of his best films altogether. I mean, I know I love Jurassic Park. I love Indiana Jones. I love like all the other movies that he's done, but this one's different. This one I think is set. It's different than his other work.
It's shot. This film and Schindler's List were filmed by the same guy, Kaminski, Janusz, and his ability. I mean, when these directors work with the same people over and over, they don't have to tell. They don't look at cameras. They're on the same page, And I think a lot of these guys work with the same people all the time. You always see the same actors, the same directors always meshing because it creates a real positive experience. Gorgeous film. Mm-hmm. On a side note, and I don't know where the link would be, but there's a video of them blowing stuff up, and it's all the actors and Spielberg, and they're saying, and they're just like they're cheering the blowing up, and they're, hey, let's blow up that thing, and let's shoot this, and it's just this. in such a serious film to see the backstory of how they're all friends and gelling. It's I don't know. It's on YouTube somewhere. It's worth seeing. You're correct on the film.
And it's great that you have all these little hidden cameos, like I think Ted Danson plays like this one.
Isn't Bryan Cranston in that movie too?
I don't know if Bryan Cranston's in there. What's his name from Sideways? What's the actor from Sideways?
Paul Giamatti.
Paul Giamatti is in there. He plays he has a little cameo. Ted Danson.
He's got that's an intense scene, and that whole apartment's like rescuing the girl.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. And the wall caves down. There's a bunch of Nazis in there, and then they end up like in a standoff. Yeah.
And it translates to our 4K TVs. So in other words, it's one of those films that is timeless.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it's not given as popular as some of Spielberg's other films. Maybe it is because of the gore or the realism, but Schindler's List and that
it's a heavy movie. Because you look at all the other movies, and maybe Schindler's List it's more of it's drama. It's like a lot more. It's not as much action. It's more drama. It's more performance. And then you look at some of his other films, like Jurassic Park. They're big commercial family kind of films. This one is heavy. This is not one of those movies that you watch like all the time. It's kind of like one of those you put it on here and there.
Truth is, I probably watch it on Memorial Day or parts of it always because it's always on and I'm eating. It's
one of those movies that you have to finish. Once you get into it, it's like you finish the movie. You can't just like pop in.
Oh, the final scene where the Germans are encroaching on the village, on the bridge.
Yeah.
And just everything. I mean, so when you watch a film like that, you really realize how could you go to war and come back and be this normal person?
You see how it's basically no matter
you're affected forever.
Yeah, and it's a gamble. Every day is like uncertain because, like I said, one step to the right, one step to the left, and then you catch that bullet.
I did watch a little bit of The Sniper, American Sniper with Bradley Cooper this week, by the way, probably about
decent.
20 or 30. But even
you know what sniper movie I really like was Jude Law's Behind Enemy Lines, I think. Which one was it?
Russian?
Yeah, it was
Wasn't
like
he German or Russian, right?
Old
movie.
Yeah, it was like a early 2000s movie.
Yeah.
Late 90s, yeah. But it was him.
World War II though.
Yeah, it was him and Ralph Fiennes. Ray Fiennes, yeah. And a young Rachel Weisz in that movie too. It's a good movie. He plays a sniper. He plays a sniper in that movie, and it's. I think Ed Harris. Is in it too. Yeah. That was
Ed Harris was in The Firm.
Yeah.
I love that guy, man.
Yeah.
He's a little guy, but man, he's powerful.
He's powerful. Yeah. He commands presence. Like him and The Rock. Like that's a great scene.
It's a great movie anyway. But so Saving Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan is a film that I watched, and then Keeping Up with Raised by Wolves, the Ridley Scott show. I was watching it, the last episode, the newest episode. I was watching it while the earthquake happened last night. And then yeah. And then I caught this new miniseries. It's on HBO. It's called The Third Day. It stars Jude Law. Mm-mm. It's a British. It's set in it's set in England. It's kind of like a British miniseries mystery, kind of like
what year?
Sci-fi. It's modern.
Okay.
But it's like a sci-fi-ish, but more of a mystery-based kind of drama. It's pretty out there. Not out there, but it's different. It's pretty heavy. It was pretty good. I caught the first episode, and I think there's only maybe 3 or 4 out right now. But it's called The Third Day. I recommend it. I've watched the first episode, and it grabs your attention. It does. It's a pretty good show. Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it.
I'll send you a link of it, or a picture of it.
Yeah, do it, because my wife might be interested more than me personally. Science fiction. I like Jude Law.
I want to say it's sci-fi based. I think it's more mystery. It's like a mystery based. Okay. He ends up upon this girl who attempts to kill herself, and he's going through his own personal dramas, and then he takes her home, and she lives off on this like British like coast island that you can only get there when the tide goes low and the roads kind of come up.
Mm-hmm.
So she lives on this community-based kind of like mysterious island, and they all seem
Wait,
kind of
community based, so they're all connected?
they're all connected. It's like a big
Okay.
community. It's like a big like everybody lives there, but they go out and they live normal-ish lives. They seem normal, but then the weirdness starts to set in here and there. So you kind of get and I think Jude Law's character is a pretty beat up, kind of emotionally torn kind of person. So it's a pretty good show. I liked it.
I like him, by the way.
Yeah, yeah. I wouldn't say it's sci-fi based. I don't know. I haven't gotten too far into it, so it's more mystery. Yeah, but that's what I've been watching. Third Day and Saving Private Ryan and Raised by Wolves was what I've been catching.
Good stuff, man. All
so
good. All good.
This week, what we're talking Tom Cruise, right?
Tom Cruise. Okay, Tom Cruise. Obviously, Tom Cruise is a little different from my life than yours and being older. But yeah, it's very interesting. Tom Cruise, he moved to New York City at 18, and all he was able to do was be a busboy. So then he moved to LA, and that's how he started moving up. And it's interesting. He moves to LA in 81, and he was in Endless Love in 81.
Okay.
That's the Brooke Shields movie.
Yeah.
Then in 81, he was in Taps. So you moved here 1 year. You understand? You're in Taps. Then 2 years later, you're in The Outsider. Now, The Outsiders with Francis Ford Coppola. It's the famous book that everyone has to read in high school, or at least we did growing up.
Yeah.
And in that movie was, C. Thomas Howell, Matt Dillon, The Karate Kid, Ralph Macchio, Patrick Swayze, Rob Lowe, Emilia Stevens, Diane Lane, and Leif Garrett, all young.
Yeah.
So, and you're connected to Francis Ford Coppola. So then that same year, he puts out Risky Business. Mm-hmm. And that's probably the movie that put him forward.
That launched him for sure.
So then 3 years later, it's Top Gun when you're the biggest movie star in the world.
Yeah.
So at 24, look at his rise up. And my wife and I, we always went to the movies and saw his films and whatever. Yeah. Now, you being a lot younger, you came in later in his life, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what would be the first movie that you saw of him or that stuck out?
I was always a big Mission Impossible fan ever since the first one. But if I have to go back and see, let me see, what's the first movie that I think I really knew of him? Because he always knew of Tom Cruise. I always knew of Tom Cruise.
So what year were you born?
85.
Wow. Let me see. So you were 11 years old when he got his Oscar nominee for. You were 11. You wouldn't be watching Jerry Maguire at 11 years old, probably.
No, I knew of the movie because it's a huge movie, but I didn't really care to see it. Let me see. You know what? I guess around Jerry Maguire time. What was a little bit before Jerry Maguire though? Few Good Men. I would say around A Few Good Men was when I became really. I knew of Tom Cruise. I would say around Few Good Men, and Yeah.
Okay.
That's when I.
Yeah, Few Good Men with Jack Nicholson.
I was like 92. That's when I became aware of the guy.
Okay.
But didn't really start watching his movies until like the late 90s. That's when I started really watching a lot of his movies. And I just always from then on fan of his. Loved the Mission Impossibles. Loved Top Gun. Went back and watched a bunch of his movies. One of my favorites of his is Cocktail. It's just a fun movie.
Well, I like the other bartender in that movie too, by the way.
Yeah.
Is he Australian, that guy?
Yeah.
He's a good actor, man.
Yeah, really good actor. And honestly, I'm always a big fan of his sci-fi movies as well. Edge of Tomorrow with Emily Blunt. I just love that movie. One of my favorites is Minority Report. And if you go back,
that was Spielberg?
Yeah, that was
good
Spielberg.
Movie. And that's with Colin Farrell?
Yeah, Colin Farrell's
I like that board that they use.
Yeah.
And I like the car. Now I haven't thought of that movie in a while, but the way the cars move, sometimes in the future cars look stupid. Actually the way it moved on this pattern was pretty cool. It
was like a track. It was like on a track. Yeah.
I liked it. So I thought that was a good movie. Wasn't he a drug addict in that too, right? He was sniffing these things or whatever.
Yeah, he kind of like So it's called Max von Sydow, or the guy from what's the guy from
That guy goes, yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. But he goes way back too.
Yeah, he goes way back. So yeah, Minority Report. Even the one he did with Morgan Freeman, Oblivion. Did you watch that one?
No. Now here,
No? You didn't see that one? That was good. It was decent.
I did watch some of it, and I did watch the movie. I liked the one with Emily Blunt a little better.
Yeah, that one I say
I
is
didn't
better.
like the female actress in Oblivion. I couldn't.
The redhead.
It was not connecting to her.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of spaced out. I mean, literally, I'm spaced out. But I don't lean toward those kind of movies. Not saying that it seemed like he did too much space stuff for a while. I would have liked to him come back down to earth and do a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because he has the skills. You know, he's the action guy in the box office, whatever. But when you look at some of his work, Rain Man, Eyes Wide Shut, Magnolia.
Yeah, Vanilla Sky.
Magnolia, he got the Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor. By that movie by Paul Thomas Anderson, who did Boogie Nights and Punch Drunk Love and There Will Be Blood. Those are all great movies. But he can, and Born on the 4th of July, where he played the Vietnam veteran.
Yeah.
And Kavik, so outside. So he's
got range.
Looks, and he's got great range.
Mm-hmm.
And
he makes good movies too. They're just fun, good movies, drama, action, sci-fi.
Yeah, well, look at who the directors. Remember we were talking about Harrison Ford, who worked with everybody at that one table. Well, I mean, this guy's working with Barry Levinson and Cameron Crowe and Stanley Kubrick and Spielberg. Yeah. We're on a level that's this, and that's why all his productions are clean, crisp, and really good. And he does his own stunts. I remember I loved the first Mission Impossible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get strung out on series.
Mm-hmm.
After Terminator 2, I was done.
Yeah.
Aliens 2 was great, but those were good follow-ups. So I don't move on. I love the Mission Impossible. I love the people. I grew up with the Mission Impossible TV show.
Mm-hmm.
You understand? It was kind of corny, not corny, but it was just different. So when he took the mask off, it was so killer. And I agree. But I'm going to say that I think Risky Business is my favorite film.
Okay.
And I know it doesn't show talent and whatever, but we always talk about film hitting you in where you're at.
Yeah.
Movie Witness has, someday I'll tell you why that has a big precedence in my life. But at a time in my life, the division of two worlds of partying and Christianity kind of were going back and forth.
Yeah.
So Risky Business was shot by a guy from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
There's the famous L Train scene with Rebecca Del Morne. And that was so part of our life. And the catchphrase, remember, he wants to get into Princeton. The guy, you raise the climax up. The guy from Princeton's coming to interview him. There's the prostitutes.
Yeah.
And she goes, "How did it go with the interview?" And he puts his glasses on and he says, "Looks like University of Illinois." And and then you think the final turn, and he closes the door and his dad's there. Do you have something to say? I just think I know it can be goofy, but it was a fun movie. And really, when we saw that movie and his dance with the Bob Seger song, which has been replicated over and over.
Commercials and everything.
Mm-hmm. Oh, everything. So, and then you go, for me, Rain Man, because of Dustin Hoffman.
Yeah.
And that movie is so revered that it was honored in The Hangover.
Yeah.
I mean, remember, he comes down. So, and I like Jerry Maguire, obviously, because of Cameron Crowe with Almost Famous, other things. And I think A Few Good Men is probably a Tom Cruise movie that I will clip in anytime it's on. Yeah. If I sit down and it's there, I think that dialogue between Jack Nicholson and Tom Cruise in the court scene, I mean, these are some of the most, you can't handle the truth. Is that in the top 10 movie lines of all time?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And they cut that camera so tight on Jack Nicholson,
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon. So I would, now that I think about that, I'm going to go with Few Good Men as being my favorite because the dialogue written by Aaron Sorkin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that guy he wrote that as a play in college.
I didn't know that.
And so it's obviously a staged. When you watch the movie, all the scenes are pretty much. Even the dialogue between the lunch scene down in Cuba with the whites wearing the whites, it's just good stuff. Anyway, so you're gonna say which one is your favorite Tom Cruise movie? Is Mission Impossible? Or
It's
more enjoyable.
More enjoyable. Honestly, the one I find myself putting on often more than any other. I'm gonna go with Last Samurai. I watch it a lot. I like that movie. I like the cast. I like the actors on the Asian on the Japanese side.
I love the head guy.
Yeah, I just like it. I like the ending.
The Lord Samurai guy. I like, and I don't know his name offhand.
Yeah,
but he's been in quite a few movies.
He's been in quite a few movies, and around that time,
the Colonel, or who is the other soldier guy?
The one he kind of like as a issue with. It's let me see the actor.
I can't think of his name. I haven't seen the movie.
Ken Watanabe is the main.
Yes, killer guy.
Samurai. The one, his love interest, her name is Koyuki. I think. Oh man, I was just in love with that girl, so that's why I kind of watch it too. Tony Goodwin.
Okay. Yes.
Old one. Yeah, that guy. They kind of like he plays a. Yeah.
He has a little bit of snideness to him in his portrayal.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree. It's okay. What I love about that movie is I like Japanese culture.
Yeah, that too.
I studied Aikido, so I like it. It's funny. My daughter said that would be a place that she would like to live. There's something about I was only in the airport, so I have no significance. I was in the airport going to Nepal, but it is interesting, and I like the culture. I did like the movie. Yeah. I need to watch it again.
It's a fun movie because you got good characters in it. You have Ken Watanabe is a great. They're back and forth. Him and Tom's back and forth in that movie because he's a prisoner of war at first, and then he starts to really fall in love with the culture, and then ends up fighting on their side. I don't want to give it away, but that's pretty basically what it is.
Well, you just did about that.
Yeah, I know.
You didn't say who wins, so that's all right.
You have a lot of good Asian actors in there that end up from this movie on doing other roles now. One of them in particular is. I'm not murder his name, but you would probably recognize him if you saw him as Hiroki Sanada. He's kind of like he's been in a bunch of movies, but you'll recognize him when you see him. I'll probably post a picture up here right now. Another one is Billy Connolly. The Scottish actor. Is he Scottish or Irish? I'm not sure which. Probably Irish.
It both ended with the ish. So
yeah.
Safe.
And
unless it's Polish, then it's totally you took it off the continent, but that's okay.
And it's just a fun movie. It gives you a kind of like it's a period piece, I guess, and it shows you a little bit of that world, and when the modern Western world and their culture, this old samurai and old Japanese culture, kind of clashed around that time. And
year? What do you know? What year that movie is set in?
This was.
It's right after the restoration, because Japan was closed for a couple hundred years.
Yeah, this was post.
Got to be 1890 something, maybe.
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that's interesting.
That's the one I find myself putting on most. But as far as like pointing out some roles that I really enjoy him in is one. Obviously, I love Cocktail, but some of the roles like Minority Report, I love. That's another one. But the ones that don't get a lot of attention too much, Collateral, his role in Collateral. Michael Mann, Jamie Foxx, he plays an assassin. Jamie Foxx is basically his driver, forced to be his driver while he does all these hits, and he plays just a completely different character than he normally ever does. And he's gray haired. He's just his shooting, his aggressiveness, it's killer role for him. I love his role in Collateral.
It's ice.
Now
okay. I love the end at the club. Is that Bardem? Javier Bardem, right? Yeah. So I I liked it because I felt like I'm in, I'm back with Narcos.
Yeah,
Felt good about it. I was drawn
yeah.
into that, but interesting.
Also, a quick little role of his at is Tropic Thunder. His role in Tropic Thunder.
Okay, so
He
that's
plays
my wife's favorite role.
plays the manager. Yeah.
No, she just with the suit.
Yeah.
She said that we were
That's
talking
it.
about. I asked her last night. I said, because we've been married forever, so we've seen all these films. We went out to the theater all the time, every Friday or Saturday. But I asked her yesterday, and she said yes. She said Tropic Thunder, and I went Tropic Thunder. And I'm thinking of you have Robert Downey Jr. with a
Like
black
that
face. You
that that
got Ben
movie that
Stiller.
movie is so politically incorrect, especially now. Oh man,
Oh,
ah, you can't make that movie now. And this is not even that old. It's not even that old of a movie. It's what 2008. And I mean, but it's a genius,
no,
freaking
the
brilliant
dance.
movie, man.
My wife said that's her favorite dancing film.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's not totally in film. Obviously, she's
uh,
has Bob Fosse would probably be number one. But anyway, and the way he's screaming into the phone, you almost wonder who
yeah,
was that in his life.
yeah. I know, right?
Who
Who did he base that out?
was that who was screaming at him at that life?
Yeah,
So very
I mean,
comedic.
because you have Tom Cruise playing like a Jewish Hollywood like manager guy. You have Robert Downey Jr. in blackface. You have Ben Stiller doing a mentally challenged person.
You can't go full mentally challenged. You have to
You can't
pull it back.
you can't go full. I'm gonna say the R word. You can't go full
Yeah.
retard.
Oh,
Oh man, it's so freaking like that movie is like it's genius, man. I know it's not politically correct, and especially for nowadays now like this time, but that movie is so freaking hilarious. I mean, from start to finish, from the fake commercials that they have, fake
mhm.
trailers in the beginning, all the way to the end. It's just and
No, it's. I
it
agree.
was so good, man.
It
That's
is. It's funny. I did when you think of a Tom Cruise, but he dominates the end of that film with his
yeah,
dancing,
his dance
and
routine.
and you know what? Even for him now, okay, so even for him to show up at Spielberg to show up at the beginning of Austin Powers, the trailer,
Yeah.
that's to me that's class act.
Yeah.
I mean that was just very funny, very cool, and
If,
enjoyed it.
and on a side for Traffic Thunder, on a side note, you had Jamie Foxx, who was asked about what he thought about Robert Downey Jr. playing that role, and then basically gave him his blessing in a way, and kind of bringing up the fact that context means a lot. And I know we like to, you know, demonize people and really, you know, obviously blackface is not really it's not something that you should do, but it all of it goes into context. But um, and Robert Downey Jr. was asked, and this was both on the podcast and
Was
separate
that on
shows.
Rogan, right?
Yeah, asked
Yeah.
what he thought of it. And Robert Downey Jr.'s like this was kind of like maybe a year or two ago when he was asked, and it's a good little segment. Maybe I'll send you the link, but.
Yeah, do I'll be interested to
But
hear
man,
it.
that movie's so freaking hilarious, man. I love that
It,
movie.
it's yeah, it takes you. But well, the premise is interesting in itself
Yeah,
because you're put in to do a movie and you get captured by you're filming a war that you become part of.
yeah.
So it is interesting and it's got great. But it's interesting after that film, you didn't Jack Black and Ben Stiller. You didn't hear a lot about these guys after that. I don't know if they were
Um,
into their careers but these
this
guys
is,
they've disappeared for a little bit.
um, Jack Black, yes and no, because he did the Kung Fu Pandas and he did a bunch of other stuff. Um, Ben Stiller, I think at that point they did several movies afterwards because I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure if we look at their IMDb, they had
Oh, I'm
a
sure
lot
they
of
are.
they still have success and they still doing, you know, it didn't hurt them in any way, but
Oh no, not her. It's just that
I think age and their
yeah.
star power, because especially for Ben Stiller, his highest point was probably from that point 2008 to 2000 were his big years.
When
So I
was
think
something about Mary?
that was like 98.
I love that movie,
I
man.
think.
And you
Yeah,
can't make that
yeah.
movie either.
No, you
But
can't. I know, and it's
but
sad. It's
but
sad.
I'll
It's
tell you
brilliant.
what, that Matt Dillon in that
Yeah,
movie when he
yeah,
gets his teeth done,
yeah, yeah.
just and even the guy who's his friend, who was the quarterback in high school, who's
Yeah.
bald now. He always plays more of a he plays a character you haven't seen him as before.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's an interesting. And anyway, yeah. So
And
that I like that
for
movie
Ben
too.
Stiller had one of like the big comedic crews around that time. You know, they had, Adam Sandler had his crew, you had Judd Apatow's crew, you had Ben Stiller's crew with Owen Wilson and all these other guys. So they were making just hit comedy movies after hit comedy
Well,
movies. So they all
they were good stuff, and
yeah, and good stuff. Yeah. And
funny. I mean, his even Zoolander, that first Zoolander.
yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I think the walk off. I mean,
Yeah.
just I mean, it's just
With Billy Zane and then just like,
and I love
oh, okay.
Owen Wilson's apartment. He's got
Yeah.
Sherpas and just I mean, that's like the apartment that I would have. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
could see that with everything that they're climbing and doing all that was pretty cool. Excellent movie.
And as far as Tom Cruise, I mean, wide range doesn't get his. I don't think gets his respect as far as his range in movies and his range in acting and his selection. Because we know him more as the action star. I think you were right. He doesn't get a lot of attention for his range. And there's certain movies that you could point to, like Magnolia and all that, but where you can see a lot of it.
Well, Eyes Wide Shut too, by the way.
Eyes Wide Shut too. Uh-huh.
That film by Kubrick, which Kubrick is one of those filmmakers that is on the, I mean, people worship this guy, and even though he hasn't done tons of films, but he won the Oscar for Space Odyssey. And Full Metal Jacket is my favorite war movie, personally.
Yeah, okay.
And that's the one in Vietnam with Matthew Modine.
Yeah.
Just something about, and the famous drill instructor scene.
Yeah.
That drill instructor, Emery guy, just walking up and down. So, but that movie was different. And Sidney Pollack, who was one of my favorite directors, who directed The Firm and Tootsie, he's an actor in it.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting because Nicole Kidman, his first wife, and I think a lot of things with Tom Cruise, I think as Scientology has become more focused in the media, I think that also has put some different light on different things. And having worked with people who are in Scientology and whatever, some of that is interesting. I think people have gone against it with certain documentaries. Yeah. I think that has affected it.
It has. The public perception, especially mainly revolving around his Scientology, has kind of, I want to even say, hurt his reputation or his star power. It really hasn't, because people still go see the guy and his movies. But it had some type of effect in terms of how people view him, especially with the whole Oprah incident where he jumps on the couch, and the rumors about arrangement with Katie Holmes and with Nicole Kidman, and so the best, really, yeah, definitely his Scientology and his involvement in the church and all that stuff, which he's high level, I guess. He's is definitely has is a big part of his public persona. But from what I hear, and what I'm sure you've heard, is that the guy is the nicest person in Hollywood.
That's what I've heard. I've never heard anything unkind about him, and so.
There's a lot of stuff coming out now where he even went to go see. He went undercover. He filmed a little special for, I don't know what channel or whatever, but him going undercover to go watch Tenet, the one that just came out. Yeah, and then there was a bunch of stuff about the new Mission Impossible that he's filming, about him doing stunts. But one of those guys that will sit and have conversations with you, and from what I hear, off camera during lunch, we'll just go sit with other of the cast members and just be like one of the regular people and just do all these charitable things, and just an incredibly nice person. That's all. You never hear anything bad about who he is as a person.
And that is what says everything. And his range, like you said, is spectacular. Yeah. I mean, I grew up with him. I mean, really, my era of films of the 80s and 90s was him. And but really, when you think about it, so last week we talked a little bit about Harrison Ford and Tom Cruise and the weight of now Tom Cruise, his films have generated $10 billion.
Yeah.
Okay, huge. $10 billion. And Harrison Ford is probably up there with the Star Wars and Indiana Jones. But in your opinion, do people go to the movies now to see the actor anymore like they would have? It's not a Tom Cruise vehicle. It's not a Harrison Ford vehicle. Jack Nicholson vehicle. Meryl Streep vehicle.
It depends on the age. For us, even for me, for you, yeah. If he's in it, I'm probably gonna want to check it out or see what it's about. Maybe I'm into it. Maybe I'm not. It's still, that kind of stuff still grabs our attention.
But is there someone with that type of power, individually in Howard? Is there a Tom Cruise in Hollywood right now? Now, okay, before this March, let's say that. Yeah. Going back, Daniel Day-Lewis, maybe.
No, I don't think he's ever a person that really was a box office like.
No, not. But for me personally,
yeah,
his roles and the way he's, three Oscars.
Not at Tom Cruise level. Like, I don't know if there's anybody on Tom Cruise level.
Tom Cruise level financially, then, right?
Financially, okay. I mean, Will Smith was on a big role for a time there. He's kind of fallen down.
That one movie. What was the one with him and his son?
Yeah. Until then, he started doing these like straight to Netflix movies, and that's where you could see the kind of the star power is kind of dying down. But as far as anybody that on that level where they can generate that kind of box office and attention, no, I don't think so. On a smaller scale, you have guys like Robert Pattinson, who is getting attention now for some of his roles. But no,
I think not filling the seats.
No, I think there's too much going on nowadays.
So you're saying that there's too much media. There's too many choices of entertainment, and that's narrowed down. Well, especially now with what are they going to do about Oscars this year?
I don't know. I
mean, does it really matter?
I don't think it matters. I think it's going to take some time for that kind of thing to go. I just like, I don't know. It makes me sad when I think about the Oscars. It's such a big thing because you can't even have a host anymore. It's like, because if anybody gets attached to it, like, who wants to get attached to the Oscars anymore? You have to be squeaky clean. Like,
well, that's why I've turned it down so many times. Because I don't want people to know about my past.
Yeah. And it's like, why?
Hey, but then that's pretty much, the truth. It's like everybody wants to point fingers, but the truth is, you know what? I don't know. Everybody sins, my friend, and everybody says bad things at times, and it's just because we're humanity and we just have to be nice. But the Oscars got weakened, and there was a time when the Oscar was it. That was the Super Bowl. That was the Stanley Cup, and as incredible as the Emmys and Tonys were, and Tonys, of course, for theater, the Oscar was the standard.
Yeah,
that was your ring. And it doesn't, and like we said, when it got expanded to 10 or different things.
That was the start of it. When it got expanded to 10, that was the start of the decline of it even mattering. Like, and who cares really at this point? It's like, I mean, people still do care though. Like, like Parasite won last year, right?
I thought that was a great film. Good win.
People still care, they'll still check it out, but it doesn't mean as much anymore, I don't think.
No, well, and especially not going to the theater. It's a difference in going to the theater than watching films at your house. In the theater, you're isolated in the black unless there's someone behind you on the phone or asking what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
But at TV, life is around, and especially life now since March. Viewing at home is not what it used to be. People are coming in and out. We're online. We're this. Be quiet. Whatever. It totally takes it. When if I watch something, I don't want to. Don't bother me.
Yeah.
I mean, I really get focused in, which is wrong in a social setting of a house to be like that. But I really pay attention because everything matters in film.
Yeah.
If it doesn't matter, then it's a bad film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're layering subtext and character with everything. So let me ask you a question. This week, what's your movie of the week that you're going to recommend? Then you get one shot. What do you want people to watch?
Oh,
and it has to be something that was part of your life this week. So it's Cruise, something we discussed. What's your or what you've been watching? What do you want people to watch?
I would go watch Saving Private Ryan. If you haven't seen it in a while or haven't seen it at all, I would suggest to watch it. It's one of those movies that it hits you. So Yeah, I was, and I think there's a lot going on right now, politically, and it kind of brings it back down to the basics in this movie of like what really matters, you know. So it's like and being a little bit more patriotic and this and that, and family and friends and life and how how it could go away in an instant type of thing. It's a good movie. I suggest people just to sit down and watch it.
Well, I totally agree with you 100% on that film. I think it's a perfect film. I don't think it has a weak link, and I do think that the opening sequence of D-Day, you are there. I saw it in the big screen at the theater, and it is a phenomenal. And to hear my wife's story about actually standing where the end of the movie ends, very powerful. And I think when we talk about being patriotic to the country or this or that, the bottom line is that people died.
Yeah. And if you look at the group in this movie, they're all from different walks of life. They're all different, they're all like have different cultures, and
that's what war was.
Yeah. And it's such a great film. Yeah.
But it's amazing how they mesh. They're from everywhere in the world, but when you said, you're right, the bottom denominator is we could die. They work together, and I thought Tom Cruise or Tom Hanks got the Oscar nomination, but I really thought that his performance, and there's a scene where his hand is shaking. I think they're in the church, and he's trying to tell the story. He's trying to comfort the other guy, and you can see how he's messed up. And I thought that was one of his better performances, personally. And the movie is a hit all the way across. So I agree with you 100%. My film of the day I'm going to go with the Tom Cruise, and I'm going to say Risky Business.
Mm-hmm.
And just because it's fun and it's just a nice slice of the 80s.
Yeah.
And a nice little escape. And let's see.
If I was going to say Tom Cruise, I would suggest Last Samurai or honestly anything. I'll give you a couple of them. I'll go some of my favorites. Cocktail, Last Samurai, and check out his role on Collateral. Also Top Gun. Top Gun's just a fun movie too.
Well, yeah, because you got a young Val Kilmer,
mm-hmm.
In there. Kelly McGillis, the love interest, and then
they're coming out with a sequel. The sequel comes out next year.
I love
the trailer. Looked pretty good.
The bald guy I don't know the actor's name, but he's running the ship, and he's always screaming at him. He's a great character actor. We've seen him in tons of movies. It'll be interesting to see. But Val Kilmer, being the Iceman and the competition and the music, that's Jerry Bruckheimer's second film.
Yeah. And
his first one's Flashdance. So when you're jumping, or Flashdance, so when you go from Flashdance to Top Gun.
I met Bruckheimer.
Really? Nice guy?
Seemed nice. It was off of Hollywood Boulevard. It was at the Hollywood and Highland. And I was there. What was I doing there? I was there for some reason. And then he was coming out with maybe him and his wife and like another couple. And they were just walking by, and I don't think anybody was really noticing who they were. Because, nobody knows what Jerry Bruckheimer really looks like unless you really know what he looks like. But
he doesn't have the hair. Who's the famous producer who works with...
He's a tall guy, though.
The famous producer who works with Ron Howard. I can't think of his name right now. His hair is always...
Yeah. God, what's his name? He's kind of small guy, right?
Yeah, but he's got big head.
Balding and his spiky hair.
Yeah.
What's his name? Jeez, I know who you're talking about.
You would know it if we said
it. Yeah.
Bruckheimer's from Detroit originally, and but they're not. Is there going to be producers with that kind of power anymore in Hollywood? Everything's
producers, yes. As far as because you look at anybody who's attached to a film now or a series of films or maybe culturally representing a certain group of people like Jordan Peele, and he's, you know, he's directing or producing a lot of these movies, or even like
but movies that are on the box office.
Yeah.
World
That's different.
Not just different, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about some of these guys.
Scale.
Just rank them out.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I don't know.
His first partner was Don Simpson, Bruckheimer's. That's who brought him in.
Yeah.
And that flashing, the lightning, that was their symbol together. And Don Simpson passed away early due to drugs.
I mean, at least I'll say this about Bruckheimer. I shook his hand. I said, "Hi, it's really nice to meet you. I'm a big fan." He's like, "Thank you," and then kind of I let him be. Like, I didn't stop him and talk to him.
That's all they want to know.
That's all I needed. And you know,
I mean, when you think of Bruckheimer, you think of power.
Yeah.
When it comes to producing.
Yeah, that's why I was like, that's why I was pretty happy to meet him. I just by chance I was walking by him.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I one time heard a story. Billy Bob Thornton was on a show, and he said him and his wife had gone to see Circus du Soleil.
Mm-hmm.
In at the Kodak Theater there, and they were coming out with their kid, and he told his wife, says, "Hey, let's go look at my star." And she goes, "Why?" So he went out and he took his daughter out to the star, wherever it is, near the Grauman Chinese Theater. And one of the impersonators says, "Dude, you're one of the worst Billy Bob Thornton impersonators I ever seen." And then he said, "I'm going back in." So, but I've been down there many times, not years, but when we first moved out here, my wife and I were always going down to Hollywood and walking, and we loved the nostalgia and the stars, and anyone who would come visit us, we'd go down to Hollywood, we'd go to Pink's Hot Dogs and we'd do the whole thing, and it was so much fun back then. It just seemed different or whatever.
Now it's crowded. It's a lot more homeless, and it you know, it's I was usually always down there just for some type of like event or like a concert or whatever. You know, I'm down there for a reason. I was always down there for a certain reason. Yeah.
Worked one summer at the Rolling Stone at down in the Kodak Theater area, and you know what blew my mind was that when I got off work at 2:45 or whenever we got everybody out of the bar, it's packed. At 2 a.m. in Hollywood, it is just packed, and they actually are setting up barricades and funneling you toward the 10 or the 101 just to get you out of the town. It was more people at 2 a.m. than there was when I went to work at like 8 o'clock. Just very interesting, but still, you know what? That's Hollywood, and that's magic.
That's Hollywood.
And
there's something about being down there, and something about being in that area. It's like you feel it's different. It's like you feel like the Hollywood. You feel the scene. You feel like it's pretty cool to be down there, like just driving through the streets and just being in that area. It's pretty interesting. So
Hollywood is the only place in the world.
But it's also very, very nice to live outside of that, so you don't have to deal with all the madness. But and then go in when you need to do something. But
well, I haven't been there in a long time, but you know what? I'd like to go down there. There's a couple places that sold pizza slices that were killer. That whole area, and I do like. You know, it's interesting. I do like to look at the stars.
Yeah.
Because a lot of those stars are from my area, you know. Even if I grew up in the 60s and 70s, because of my parents, I mean, I'm familiar with the stars of the 30s and 40s. They're all part of our lives or whatever.
And so it's probably a good time right now too, because not a lot of people are out working and a lot of people are home, so the streets will be a little bit more manageable. So you know, maybe take a drive when you have a chance.
Well, I haven't gone. You know what? I haven't gone there in a long time. I should head down there. So anyway, man.
Good show.
Good show. Hey, you know what? Let's talk war movies next week.
Yeah, let's do it.
Because, you know, we'll go in, get some background, and I think it'll be very fascinating. Tom Cruise, great star. Go see his films, obviously.
Yeah. All right, man.
All right, man. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Take care.